Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited about this session. They always seem to put me with all the ladies for some reason. It's not a bad thing, for sure. But I just wanted to first have everyone introduce themselves, and I'm going to ask a few questions to get the conversation started. So to my left, Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandra Zarati, and I run marketing for a division of Ricoh.
And I am Nancy Dusso-Smith, and I run marketing for iRobot.
We have a CMO club.
Woo woo! I got some fans. All right. And we are most well known for our Roomba robot vacuum cleaner, but we also have robots for the military, healthcare, and for research.
And I'm Alicia Jansen, and I head up marketing at MD Anderson Cancer Center.
Fantastic.
Houston!
Houston's pretty strong here. Usually it's pretty light. The first question I wanted to ask really goes back to the last summit that was in San Francisco. One of the keynote speakers happened to be Ronnie Lott, who was the Pro Bowl safety for the San Francisco 49ers. And one of the things that really struck me was that when he was asked, how do you really stay motivated? He talked about the fact that his overall goal from high school, college, and then into the pros, and even today, was really to exhaust life. That was kind of his mantra. And I wanted to ask the panel to give examples as to, with your own marketing teams, how do you try to develop that same type of go for the moon approach when it comes to marketing programs that can sometimes be viewed as somewhat mundane?
I'm chatty Kathy. I'll start. Whatever. It always comes back to me to remembering why I went into marketing in the first place. And it's not about trying to find $1.5 million to cut for my Q2 forecast, or talking to who owns SEO. Is it direct or brand, and why are we bidding against each other for the same words? It's about bringing products to people in a creative way and bringing products that are going to change their lives. And so when I'm in that manager mode and getting stuck in, I go back to basics, and I go back to my team, and I throw out a challenge, and we come up with some really crazy creative ideas. And I heard some other people say this yesterday, 5% of my budget for crazy ass stuff. 5% for out there ideas, and we take that money and we do some fun stuff. If we have time later, I did bring a video from one of our crazy stunts that I will show you what we did, and it had huge results that made our executive team sit up and take notice. And they're like, where'd you come up with this? And I was like, this was one of our inspiration moments.
Fantastic. Great example.
I love Rodney's attitude. I have this plaque that's in my laundry room that inspires me. And it basically says, I don't want to slide into the grave with a well-preserved body. I want to go in sideways with chocolate in one hand, martini in the other, and yelling, Yahoo!
Amen.
That's how I look at life and I look at business. I wake up in the morning wanting to make sure that my team understands what are we doing today to solve the challenge. Whether it be a business challenge, a customer challenge, what are we doing that actually uses our business expertise and marketing as our tool? And we've got to figure out what can we do to add value so that we are considered decision makers, and as I saw a phrase, business enablers and not order takers. Mm-hmm. So that's what gets me up in the morning.
I think it's a great question because the last few years have been difficult, right, with the economy, and leadership and motivation really matters most during the storm. So for me, it's about finding what I hear you both saying, the higher order purpose in what you're doing, even as a B2B marketer with what we're doing, talking and co-creating with my team around what really is this doing to add value to the world, focusing on that and really letting that motivate us and inspire us.
That's a great response. And for me, I'll just say that the thing that really gets me motivated and inspires when I run across young marketers that are still aspirational about their careers. And for me, it means everything for someone that's working with me, for me, to really help them find their own voice and identify the things that they believe are really important. I think that's probably a pretty good segue to the next question that I had is, when you do find young people that are young and excited about marketing, how do you find ways to keep them motivated, inspired, and challenge them?
Yeah. Can I show that video? Because this actually was done in-house. One of the things that we did was we had this goal, this challenge around, We had some found fourth quarter pennies from heaven. I don't know if anyone else gets these. All of a sudden, you've got a week. Spend this money now. Crap. But it's also a fun marketing challenge and exciting. And so we pulled our team together, and a 22-year-old intern came up with an idea and worked with our internal writers, and we wrote this script, and we did this really fun video, and I called a friend of mine. He agreed to star in it with his family, and we created a viral video, and we did 6 episodes around the Will Forks. He's the defensive captain for the New England Patriots, and they love our robots. And they'd been into the office and playing with robots before, so people knew that they liked it, and so we did this fun little at home with the Will Forks, cheesy 50s takeoff. And it took off. Do you have that video? Can you play that quick video?
At home with the Wilforks.
Brought to you by iRobot Corporation. Starring the Wilfork family. Guest starring iRobot Roomba.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go pick up DeAndre. I'll be back in a few. Please keep the house the way I left it.
That's his real wife, who's got a lot of cachet in the market, and those are his kids.
Who wants some popcorn? You want some? Who wants some popcorn? There you go. Ha ha ha! Oh, we gotta get this room cleaned up before your mom come home.
We filmed this the Tuesday after Monday Night Football, and Vince could barely walk. He was ready to kill me when I made him get on the floor.
Wow, thanks guys, you guys did a really good job.
We got you, baby.
So we did this really fun little in-house thing, and it took off. All the sportscasters loved it. The Patriots loved it. It's actually being shown at the Bruins games now, which is crazy, in Boston. And they did radio ads. It got picked up on the radio. We got interviewed, newspaper articles, all over this silly idea about making this fun little 50s sitcom with a little bit of money, and then we expanded into some stuff, and it was the motivation around it and the excitement from the internal team that this was all done in-house. The jingle was a woman who works on our team. The voiceover was a guy on the team. We did the whole thing in a week and a half. I mean, it was so exciting to be a part of that whirlwind thing. And so I think when you can give them a project that they can own themselves and see it from start to finish and see the impact it has, good or bad, and learn from that. And it's just, they're so inspired and excited, and they're coming to me with all kinds of crazy things. I just had to turn down a belly flop contest, which has nothing to do with our brand, but it's fun.
Great example.
Mine's a little bit different. Mine is not so much about the work relation as much as I have 2 20-somethings on my team, and they are hungry for information. So I'm trying to hook them up with mentors, cross-train them, give them opportunities to shadow the more senior folks on the team. But what I found, which was invigorating but deja vu, they absorb everything. They want to work 24/7. They want to be everywhere I want to be or another senior leader wants to be. And they have no balance in their life. I was talking at the reception to Eric from Hitachi Data Systems, and he and I have the same issue when it comes to keeping people motivated, especially around those that want to do a great job, be there all the time, learn as much as they can, but they end up having no balance. So we talked about how I can keep younger people motivated is force them into defining balance for them. Some of them don't have their vacation built up. So I look at it from, I'll give you a comp day if we get this project done by this date. Or I'll let the team go and pay for lunch if we end up having this presentation done and presented and get great response. So I force them into taking vacation, making sure that they look at their calendars so they're not working weekends. I don't approve, we are in a off-site medical building, I don't approve the air to come on, the air, AC or heat. And if they go in, they're gonna fry in the summertime or they're gonna freeze their ass off in the wintertime. I don't care, you go in there, it's at your own risk, but I'm not approving it. So I'm trying to discourage them from trying to get into the old habits of old farts like me and learn balance up front so that in 5 years they don't get burned out and they want to leave.
That's great.
So I remember when I was in that position in a job, really hungry, really motivated, and the turning point for me was when the senior vice president, who I had tremendous respect and admiration for, met with me and said that he was going to give me this enormous responsibility that I felt was way above my head, but he believed in me so strongly that I jumped in and did it. And to me, to motivate the youth, it's to say, I believe in you, I'm gonna trust you with this, and I'm gonna give you this project. I'm going to support you as needed, but not pick it up and tell you how to do it. And to me, that vote of confidence, if you're someone that, you know, can give them that assignment, is really a cool thing to do to keep people motivated.
That's a fantastic thought. And I was thinking, actually, just this morning, there was a quote that was shared on a program that I saw last week that talked about this idea that the best way to help people that you really care about is not necessarily to give them money or to give them gifts, but to give them the opportunity to have someone that actually believes in them. And I'd like to turn this back to the panel for a second to say, how do you consciously make sure that this becomes part of your daily, weekly, monthly volition to make sure that people actually realize that you actually do believe in them? Because that sometimes can be everything, and people actually getting beyond what I call the now of the moment and be able to reach further into these opportunities that are sitting there. But unless we do something with the opportunities, they no longer become opportunities. So can you talk about how you actually make people believe in themselves and consciously make sure that that actually happens on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
One of the things that I do is each person on my team has to have a professional development plan. That plan goes into their evaluation. So one of the things that I ask them, especially the young folks, to really be thinking about, what is that skill set you want to learn? Is it a technical skill set? Is it a leadership skill set? And in their minds, they're like, well, I'm not a leader. And I said, no, you are. You are a leader of your projects. You're a leader of cross-functional teams. You are a leader. And the third one is industry knowledge. So what is it that you need to learn for you to get to what you think the next step is? I will help you. I will invest in you. I will cross-train you. But you have to tell me what you're thinking, and I can bring it out. What I found was when I forced them into taking ownership and having skin in the game, then they were much more focused on, I want to ask to work on this project versus give me anything. I want to learn this skill set from this person instead of just make me shadow anybody. And it was a really nice collaboration between the two. And when they know they're going to get evaluated, what gets measured gets done. And they really saw that as an opportunity for them to think through, and they can't think 5 years in advance, but they're thinking 2 or 3. They know we got enough experience to help them figure it out, but they have to bring the passion and the drive to the table. And that's how we got them to really want to invest in themselves, and I was willing to put budget against it as well.
There's 3 things I would say. First, you give them this stretch project and you tell them you believe in them and then you trust them, so you have to let go of control even when you're judged on the result. Second, when the result comes in, you give them crazy good credit to the CEO of the corporation. Someone liked that.
Wendy.
She's having a good
She's
time
so
up there.
funny.
Yeah, right. And third, I love the idea of the mentorship. So I like to pair people of all levels on my team with people they admire outside of the company to set them up in a mentorship relationship, because I think that helps a lot and it gives them a different perspective.
Yeah, I love that idea of outside. We haven't done that. That's really cool. I think the idea of giving people the ownership, like we talked about over and over, is an important one. And the idea that they can have that visibility to senior leadership, at least for us in my company, is a big deal. Allowing a relatively junior person to present to our CEO is life-changing for them. And I do that a lot. They present to me first, so we do the training of it, but to put them in front of them and to show that confidence in them is the best way, in my mind, to motivate young talent, is to give them, and that's part of that, giving that props, right? Like you were just saying, that people then know that those were their ideas. They were leading that. That was an amazing project that they actually got to do and take part in. And one of the other things that I heard here, and it's fun, I hate going last because so many good ideas are already out, and it's like, what's new, right? But with this idea that after a year, you're based on your performance, and after that, it's really on the performance of your team. And that was a big realization to me a few years back, that I am being judged by senior management on how good my team is, not necessarily on how good I am. They know what I do, but it's how good and how much can I promote that, build that team within. And so being able to show off to senior leadership how smart these kids are, how great these young professionals are, is really very helpful.
It's great. I was actually going to add my 2 cents on that opportunity to put folks in front of the senior leadership as well. I just started a new position, and I've already tried to start setting horizons out for the team to let them know that, on May 21st, we're going to be presenting to the executive board, and it's not going to be just me presenting. You're going to be responsible for this particular section, so kind of man up and cowboy girl up and get ready to make these presentations, because it's going to be essentially on you to carry the mail. I want to go back a little bit to what Sandra was talking about earlier with the economy being tough and just difficulties in general with leadership, and those moments when you get slammed a bit by a particular function or group, and try to find ways to overcome those hurdles that come in front of us from time to time, as well as there are times when we've all had our armchair marketing professionals from other functions that voice their opinions about things. My question is this: how do you find ways to embrace those potential detractors and actually leverage that as a motivational perspective to actually get people on board that wouldn't necessarily be champions of what you're trying to do?
That's a tough one. You want to start?
I got it. I'll go first.
Because it's important, right? Because if you leave those folks out, they're going to continue to be outside the circle. Right?
I think in tough times, the prevalent emotion is fear. And so what you have to do, and I'll say it, but I think it's tougher to do than say, is you need to focus on relationships. And you have to focus on relationships across your team, in your team, across your organization, outside of your organization. And then the other thing I think you need to do is create, and I mean the word create, meaningful work. So I had a situation where we couldn't get decisions on a couple priorities on where to construct our next marketing campaign. So we made the decision, we put together the plan, and we brought it forward, and guess what? Everybody loved it. It gave everyone something very specific to do. It took the fear of the decision off of others, and it got us away from sort of being afraid or thinking and worrying about things. So I think those are the two really big parts for me.
I think that's great. And one of the things that my CEO has said to me over and over is the power of influence is something that is so important in your role. And it's not necessarily, the people that work for you, they already know what they're supposed to do, or it's your peers. It's the C-suite, it's the people that are at the executive level that you need to influence in a different way than just telling them what to do. So, we always, the budget crisis and the thing, I'm overhead. I don't know how many, I think there was some talk before about business units and where your budget falls. I'm corporate overhead. We're a publicly traded company. Our overhead expense is very high. We have a lot in research, blah, blah, blah. Always pressure to reduce overhead, always. And I could feel it coming when we were getting to AOP time. I just knew they were going to say, reduce your budget, and oh, by the way, we're still expanding into 6 new territories internationally, and oh, by the way, we still have to do all this other stuff, but reduce your budget, okay? So I started a campaign early. It's like the Gretzky comment, know where the puck's going to be or know where the ball's going to be. I knew it was coming down the road, and went out on a campaign with the other executives, took a few out golfing, and we talked a lot about what my team brought to the table, what we were doing, what our challenges were going to be for the next year, how we could help them do their jobs better, what I needed to support that. And when it came time and we're sitting down doing the AOP and my team's budget came up, everybody in the room was like, don't touch her budget. We need it. It's vital for us going forward. Don't touch it. And we just moved on, and the CEO looked at me and was like, all right, good, that's okay. So it was seeing that puck, where it was going to be, and going ahead and preparing.
I think every CMO has to be thinking about, what do I do to add value? And if you can prove it to the C-suite, but also to their teams as well, that's extremely important. One of the things I learned very early when I took this job was that if I don't prove that I'm not just overhead, I'm going to get people cut, budget cut, and they're going to view me as only the person who gets out pretty ads. So I had to figure out how to measure financially everything that I did. And I scream it from the mountaintops that marketing brings in 14% of new patients every quarter, and for every dollar I spend, I bring $9 back. And I plaster that everywhere. And I got that way because my CFO was like, what have you done for me lately? The COO, your cost and money. I'm like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And I had to prove it, and I prove it over and over and over again. And so that's how I really feel. I had to get to know the CFO and say, what keeps you up at night? I had to go talk to his team. But to overcome the challenges when you're in a budget crunch, I agree. Everybody gets fearful. And I have this plaque on my desk. What would you do if you knew you did not fail and you could not fail? And so I look at it from a fearless standpoint. Raise your hand, ask the question. You're not going to look stupid. Get to know the people you work with. Get to know the people below those folks. I have a procurement group, and I don't know if you guys love your sourcing and contracting folks as much as I do. This man was not a friend of mine, nor was I of his. And it became very apparent one time, unfortunately, I lost my cool in front of my boss and this man, and I thought, oh shit, because I knew it, I was going to hear about it, and the minute it happened, I knew after the meeting my boss was going to say something to me. He said something to me, and I said, you're absolutely right, this guy needs to be my best friend. So I spent every month for 1 hour sitting in his office with a smile on my face. I faked it until I made it, and this guy has become the best advocate for me now, and I for him. Because I took the time to find out what kept him up at night, what his challenges were, what could my team do to make it easier for him, because I was his biggest internal client, but I was apologizing to him. I was being best friends to him, because I needed him to have his team work a little bit harder and smarter for me, and I needed his team to feel from mine that we appreciate everything that they do. And we've actually changed some processes that have made it a lot easier, but I still meet with him on a regular basis. I do not let that relationship go.
Nice job.
Fantastic. And actually, I want to just kind of tie into that, Alicia, for the next question. For me, what you're really talking about is creating a sense of urgency at times around, as you were talking about the patients and how much it costs and how you actually bring in money into the enterprise. The question is simply this, that I started my job probably 78 days ago, so I'm getting close to the 90-day point, which I've been talking a lot about. It's kind of the first 90 or 100 days, and trying to, in my own mind, get a sense as to what was most important. The question I have for the group is, can you think about some moments when you've tried to put a stake in the ground and create a sense of urgency, and how it actually rallied not just the marketing team, but the entire organization to get more motivated and inspired to actually reach for goals that maybe previously folks thought were impossible? Because I'm not sure if we're all familiar with different scenarios that we all face, but I just want to get a chance to have people share some of the things that actually have been very successful when they tried to create a sense of urgency from a marketing perspective.
To me, the big lesson learned for me in my career is when you want to rally people around a sense of urgency, it can't be your idea. It has to be probably from the voice of the customer, and then you have to co-create it with the team. That's the only way that it's ever worked, and I probably learned that one the hard way. But if the customer says it's urgent, that to me is the voice that matters.
You know, that is an excellent point, because I use that all the time. You're never a prophet in your own land, but if a third-party consultant or the customer says it, and you can quantify it, it's not just 1 or 2 people, you can really get people rallied around it. And that's one of the quickest ways for us to shut down an argument internally. The customer research says, the voice of the customer says, and that's one of the things that my group does. We've talked to over 20,000 of our patients and our caregivers to find out exactly where our sticking points are in serving them the best way we can. And I use that information and I trended it, and I went to operations and said, I know you know this, but they're saying our biggest sticking point is right here. What have you heard? What does your team say? And he's, yeah, I see that too. Great, so what are you thinking? Same thing. What's your idea? I've already got 10 in the back of my mind. What's your idea? And he's coming at me with all these questions and thoughts. I'm like, yeah, that's a great one. Let's combine 2 and 3. Let's do it. Let's do it together. And it ended up being a phenomenal solution for one of the biggest sticking points we have in serving our customers. But I had to make him feel it was his idea. I had to bring information to the table that he thought about, why is marketing so excited about this? Well, it's because the customers have a choice. And if we do not take care of the customer, they won't be our customer. So we need to be thinking about what we can do as a service organization to be above and beyond our competition. And operations is key. They're often the front door. They are the ones touching the customers often. So what can I learn and tell and show that he can then implement? And then we both take credit.
One of the best things that happened to me is I get to run also our executive briefing center and our customer-facing events. That is the best because I get to bring the whole corporation in front of the customers who visit us, and I get to grab customer quotes, data, feedback that I use all day, every day to really talk about the directions that we're taking. And so if you don't own that, try to get it.
I'm still trying to think of a marketing program that wasn't urgent.
No?
Pass, huh?
I tell everybody who comes into our company, the rate and speed of which we work and change and try and test and whatever is unlike anything you've experienced before. And they're like, okay, and then they come and they go, holy crap, you weren't kidding. And so there's such an urgency around what we do and an excitement around it that sometimes that energy is hard to contain, and that tends to be my problem. Of that, I have lots of people spinning up and doing really exciting things, and quiet helps. So one of the problems we had was around social media, Twitter in particular. Who owned it? Was it customer service or was it marketing? And I got the customer service team and the marketing team in a room, and we put up the Twitter feeds of iRobot, of Roomba, of Scuba, and I just sat quiet as they watched it all spool up, and customer concerns and problems, and nobody from iRobot responding. Nobody. And then the social media guy posting something about some contest when there's a string of people complaining about something. And then for about 10 minutes of just quiet watching that. And then at the end, I'm like, so what do we do? Right? And that motivated people. But it was the quiet that was so different from the normal that actually made people pay attention.
That's a great comment, and I'm starting to think even on the horizon, how do you institutionalize these ideas of keeping people motivated? Because it's great when you have one particular issue, but as CMOs, our responsibility is to always kind of be taking a trip into the future and making sure that we're kind of planning these moments of truth, if you will. Have you guys had success with trying to institutionalize some of these approaches to peak?
If I can share one story, because I think it's really fun. We have a lot of amazing interns. iRobot's a cool place to intern at, right? We build robots, that's cool.
By definition.
It's just fun. And so we get amazing engineering interns, we get amazing marketing interns that come in, and we always have these marketing projects for the interns, right? They get to pick a project that they want to do and run, and they present it to the company afterwards, and we have these company huddles, and they present their cool project. And I had one of my team come up to me and go, I want to be an intern. I was like, what? I want to do a cool project. I never got to do a cool project. How come only the interns get to do cool projects?
Nice.
I'm like, duh, you should get to do a cool project. So now we have this thing that we instituted where they can do a project a year if they want to, and they can present it. And one of the latest ones that just came out, which I'm really proud of, is we're looking at ways to get kids excited about science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM initiative, through robots, because it's fun. And this marketing person led a group of engineers and created a small little robot that, off of parts of our robots that we already have, that we could manufacture and give to schools or sell to schools. And they partnered with another charity that does curriculum and came up with a curriculum that they could match to it, and we could actually sell it to schools or give it to schools for less than $20. and it's MCAS, you know, it teaches to the test, it works, and it works at all different grade levels as these things. Then they went and they got a partner with like a big company. I'm like, what? This is fantastic. We can actually, maybe in a year, actually have a product from this. And this came from one of these marketing projects. And I can't wait to see what the other people are coming up with. Now they're up in the game, so this is going to be great. But it's that excitement and motivation that they now feel like they can do something that makes a difference, that isn't about just churning out new direct marketing visuals. It's something creative and different that they can do that will make a mark for them, that they can present to the CEO and have some fun with.
That's a great point. And one of the things that we've been talking about on my team is this idea of, you know, half of what you do should be the stuff you have to do. That's why they call it work, right? The other half is the things that you hope to do and actually give you some sense of happiness. And it's just an interesting concept. And as I start looking again on my next horizon, the idea of trying to make sure that people feel like they, again, are finding their voice and understanding that they can do more than what they thought they could, I think is a really huge opportunity for the organization.
One of the things that I've learned, and we were talking about this earlier, that companies are made out of human beings, and it is the relationships. What we try to do is make people feel included. How many times have you worked on a project and you thought, gosh, I had a great idea for that and I wasn't asked, or I can't get on the team because it's too big, or I don't have enough time, but I really want to be involved. And then the silos start, and then the gossiping starts. So to break that down, to take an idea and make it institutionalized, we recently, 2 years ago, introduced a brand new brand where we found out through all the research that making cancer history, which is our tagline for the last 20 years.
Love that.
People have been taking the red marker and crossing out cancer, and they do what I just did in the air. I love that because it's empowering to me. And I thought, why can't I get brand ambassadors from all the employees? So we went around the whole company as we introduced this new brand and said, tell us how you are making cancer history. And we made them go through and mark through cancer on these poster boards that we posted all around the institution and write out for who or how. And we made videos out of it, and it became viral across the institution so that people could see, I'm making cancer history. I get to be part of this, and I'm a janitor, or I'm the landscaper. You don't have to be a doctor to be included. So we went to every level, got everybody involved. We spent a lot of time trying to get people to understand each one of us makes cancer history. And this is how you get to tell your story, because storytelling and keeping us all involved was extremely important. And we couldn't figure out any better way than to have each person tell their own story.
I think motivation comes down to, in my role, enabling my team and others in my company to do things that we've never done before. So I like the focus on external. We're doing a project this semester with 3 marketing classes at the local university, and the way we've engaged is very different and novel, and they'll be presenting to us. But the team gets to go and present to the class, and we did a book, and we're doing other things in terms of outreach locally. And that, to me, is the part that is not required, but very motivational element of the job.
That's fantastic. Kind of like field trips.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check to see if there's any questions that we have in the audience, or suggestions that you guys have actually employed that help you all stay motivated and inspired. Nice.
Just kidding.
Yes.
A lot of things we're talking about, it seems like, and even my own example, I'm realizing, was sort of internally focused, right? It was about motivating and inspiring the company to get behind you and that kind of thing, which I think is interesting because it's not really owned anywhere. I mean, I don't know if you own internal communications as well or whatever, but it's not really owned for us. There's a communications group.
Interesting.
But so you kind of step up and you do that, and you kind of try to motivate people and align people internally. But it's not institutionalized, right? It's just happening because of the nature of what I think we do, right? So, is there a way of somehow putting some kind of, systematic, something in place that would make it more, systematic and more regular in terms of communication that wouldn't necessarily offend, the communications team. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's a great point. And
Yeah.
I actually have the exciting opportunity to actually have internal communications this go around. I got a lot of things. Internal communications, I've got external communications. Actually, Shayna does. She's got those two pieces. My colleague's sitting at in the back section there. But I've also got corporate sales, and now we're going to create a new area called marketing strategy, which has never been developed before. And what I'm finding is that there is this opportunity to really kind of flow all these things together, because the best brands usually start with the employees, right? And those moments of truth that we've been hearing about the last couple days. For me, before, when I was at Shell, it seemed like it was much more of an opportunity to partner with internal communications when you have some type of annual program or quarterly program that recognizes a certain aspect or attribute that we're trying to really emphasize. And at Shell, it was very much focused on experience commitment, which was the tagline. And we were able to recognize employees that were demonstrating these values. And it was almost a natural suit for it almost to become internal communications program, because they were actually running it, which allowed us to build tighter partnerships on other programs as well.
I actually own internal communications as well, just recently
Just
given to
bomb.
me. It's freaking
Go girl.
crazy. But it's really fun. And what we've actually done now is I went back to, it used to be owned by HR, and they really thought about it from what do we have to communicate to the employee versus what should we communicate to the employee. And so now we do quarterly all hands meetings where there is fun elements, there's technology elements, things that they haven't seen, because somebody who works in our defense business may have no idea about the new home robot that's being worked on or the cool research project that's going on. So we do those elements across, which is really fun. And we have a consistent way of communicating within iRobot, which is specific to our company, but we now have telepresence robots, and we call it Project Kool-Aid, and drinking our own Kool-Aid. And so we have robots that people can log into in our other offices and go around and see what's happening. And we also instituted a thing where the launch plans for products also now have to have an internal launch plan.
Yes.
So instead, we always focus on how are we launching this outside, but not necessarily how are we launching this inside. And we have all these brand ambassadors who love that they work for the company. Let's give them the tools to go out and talk about it. So each of our offices, when we launch a product, we'll have a launch event at their offices where they can see and feel and touch and get. And then the other thing that was interesting that we did from an internal comms perspective that was delayed and should have been done earlier is we realized I was talking to some people, and somebody said to me, one of our guys in defense, he goes, I've heard those Roomba things are pretty good. You don't have one? He's like, no, I don't have one. How do you not have one? So for our 20th anniversary, our CEO gifted every employee with our high-end Roomba, and he autographed each one and had a personal note on it saying, thank you for all that you've done for iRobot.
Wow.
And I checked, none of them are on eBay. So so people really liked them, and they thought that was so amazing and touching. But from an internal communications perspective, just knowing and understanding what the internal customers want to be communicated about and to, I think, has been a big help for us from an internal comms perspective.
I'll give 30 seconds. I think everyone's hungry. What I do internally is we try to highlight employees in other areas on who we depend on. So we're just launching sales rep highlight for our briefing center, for example. And the other thing we do is when we get external opportunities to attend neat events, or if we get a PR opportunity, we're giving it now to other functions and other employees to really highlight them and lift them up. And I think that really helps take the focus off us and say, we need you, we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
That's simple.
Yep.
Fantastic. We have time for one more question.
Yeah, we have about 1 more minute. So
We have 1 more minute.
short question, short answer.
Okay. If we don't have another question, I'll just add one other bit, and then we can wrap things up. But I first want to say thank you to everyone on the panel. I think it was very engaging dialogue. My one last comment is that I know that it may have been mentioned before in the last couple of days about the idea of technology obviously has come upon us in a way that it is really changing everything. but what I have noticed is that every once in a while, when I write out a personal note to an employee, or I get one from another team member, it inspires the heck out of me. It makes me feel like someone actually cares. And I know that may not be high tech, but for me, it's some of those notes I still have in my drawer that actually mean everything, that someone took the time to actually write out a personal note.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.